Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to be talking about marking knives. I want to show a couple different types of them as well as how to sharpen them and some of the things you might look for when you're picking out your own knife. So let's dive in and take a look at this fantastic tool. So here I've got a few knives that I use in the shop. This is my normal pocket knife. It's just a simple utility blade. And a lot of people think of these as disposable, and for the most part they are, but you can sharpen them. I'll be going this a little bit. This is probably the cheapest and easiest way to get into a marking knife. It has a few drawbacks, but for the most part it's actually a pretty quick and easy tool to use. This one is my go-to marking knife. I use this one more than any other. This was actually made for me by Dan the Maker Man. It has a double bevel here, so there's a bevel on this side, bevel on this side, and it's perfectly flat on this side. There's also a long tang here, so I can reference off of one surface and get a really nice clean mark, so I can transfer a mark from one side to the other really accurately. So if you're looking for a marking knife, that's one of the big things I'm looking for, is a long flat tang on the back side here. Also, it's a really comfortable design, little notch in there so you can get your finger in and put some pressure on it and cut into it. Now the last two here are more carving knives than generally marking knives, but a lot of people do like to use these for marking, and this one is more for chip carving, but it has a very fine bevel here. It doesn't have that big referencing surface, so I don't like using it quite as much, but this is great for getting into those little corners and marking out, especially back in the corners of dovetails. And then this is one of my favorite carving knives. I picked this up at a Midwest tool collector's meet a while ago. I just love the shape on this one. So this one, I don't use it as much for marking, but it is a very commonly used knife in my shop, and I keep it really nice and sharp. So for me, I'm going to suggest if you get a marking knife, try and find one like this. And I've actually talked to a few people trying to make knives like this. Dan the Maker Man, who made this one, he has made several others for other people, so you can contact him and see if he'll make one for you. But I would love to find others like this, because this is really the design I like. It has an incredibly thin shaft here. I don't like them when they get really thick. A full 1/8 inch is just too much steel there. And it has a nice lightweight feel, good balance to it, and the bevel up here is exactly what I'm looking for. So a few things I like about this knife. It has a double bevel, so if I'm marking on this side of something, I can do this, and if I'm marking the other side, I can just flip it over and then mark on the other side, and that way the bevel is always away from the side I'm referencing. It also has that nice long shank I was talking about, and that's if I want to transfer the mark from this. If it didn't have that nice long shank, I'd be coming in at an angle and actually undercutting and reaching underneath a little bit more than I'd want to. With that, I can actually put it up here and reference perfectly against the surface and get a perfect transition from one to the other. So I can reference against this face all the way along, keeping it flat on the back side of that knife. Another thing about the two bevels, you're almost never using the back side of the bevel. So from back here up to about 1/4 inch away from the tip, this edge of the blade is almost never used. It's pretty much worthless. There isn't a huge amount there. Every now and then I'll do something where I'm cutting back in here. I need to reach in and mark like that, but it is incredibly rare. Usually 99.9% of the time I'm only using from the tip to about 1/4 inch back. So it's very important that that point from the tip to about 1/4 inch back is good and sharp. Everything else back here, I just keep it relatively sharp, enough to make a mark. But right up here at the tip, I keep that razor sharp. So for sharpening the knife, I use my normal diamond plates, and I'll try and leave a link to these down below. One little spritz per plate, and I freehand everything. So I'm going to put this on here, and I'm just going to feel that old bevel. I'm going to hold it there, and I'm going to move back and forth. I'm going to be moving my whole body, trying to lock my arms in. Once you have done this for a couple years, you'll get to the point where you don't have to move your whole body, and you can just do your arms, because your arms know what you're looking for and you can keep it nice and level. The problem with just using your arms is you're normally rocking, and so you'll be lifting up and down as you go. But if you get good at it, you can just do it like this. And so I'm just going to do a couple there, a couple there, and a couple there. I'm going to feel if I have that burr on the back like I do. I'm going to come back over, do the same thing on the other bevel, lock it in, feel that bevel on there. And so just like that, we have a knife that is pretty darn sharp and ready to go. I still have a little bit of a burr there, so I'm going to flip it over on this side, just rub it a little bit, and I'm going to actually polish it on the strop as well, because I just want it to be extra sharp. I'm not looking for anything amazingly perfect, just looking for a really nice, clean, buffed finish. There, nice and shiny, buff off the back. And now we have a good marking knife that will very easily and very quickly slice the fibers and leave some incredible lines. Now I usually sharpen my knife every couple weeks or so. I don't do that much. And this is when I've left it for a while, then I'll go back and do all three. Most of the time I'm just going to hit my finest stone and the strop, just 5 or 6 strokes on this, 5 or 6 strokes on this, and we're done and ready to use. Now for these other two, the handles get in the way and I can't use them on this plate. And that's one of the things I made with this, is I can actually pop this out, and now I can pull the plate out and I can do the same thing on here and sharpen this way, just running them off the side, keeping them separate. But most of the time on my carving knives, I'm rarely ever going to take them back to this. I keep them sharp. So I'm going to pull out the strop here, and I'm just going to strop them every 5-6 minutes or so when actually carving. And doing this, I can keep them incredibly sharp and can get a really nice razor clean surface on there that is phenomenally fun to use. Most of the time when carving, I have a separate strop that I just leave on the bench. It makes it very easy then to just do it this way. And as long as I keep them on the strop and occasionally bring them over here while carving, they'll stay perfectly razor sharp and be a really nice clean knife for me to use. I had mentioned earlier about utility knives. It's the exact same thing on the utility knife. I can sharpen them up on here. And as long as I don't break the tip or something of that nature, I can just keep them sharp on this and have a really nice clean edge on them. And I used to do that all the time, but now I buy a box for $500 and I don't think about it that much. Now, some people really get picky about their marking knives, and I want to tell you, don't overthink it. Any knife can be a marking knife as long as you can reach where you want to mark from. There's a few things that make it nicer, a few things that make it easier, a few things that make it more feeling and comfortable to you. And those are things that you just have to experience and play with yourself. Because everyone out there is different, and everyone's going to have slightly different things that they like or don't like. So don't overthink it. Grab a knife, make a mark, have a little bit of fun in the shop. It is an incredible tool and something that will change your woodworking, because a marking knife will give you an accurate line that you just cannot get with a pencil. Implementing a marking knife into your shop over a pencil will increase your accuracy and improve your woodworking skill phenomenally. So give it a try and have a little bit of fun. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, let me know down below. And also feel free to let me know if you have something that you really like in a marking knife, something that you look for particularly. There are all sorts of different types out there and all different types of people to match it. If you did like the video, please hit like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell. You know, all those fun things. They really do help out the channel and help us keep growing. So thank you for that. Also, if you want to help us out even more, you can become a member and click the join button, or go over to Patreon and help out there. I do not do sponsors on this channel, and so because of that, I'm completely supported by you, the viewer, and can say whatever I want to say for you. I'm not being told to say that by companies, so I hope you like that. I think that's about it for today, and until next time, have a wonderful day. They really need to come out with a John knife and a James knife and a Paul knife. Why are there just so many Mark knives?